Muy buenas tardes. If it's okay with everybody, let's start with the SANDAG Committee on Binational Regional Opportunities, the famous COBRO committee. I want to welcome you all to this meeting. It is my pleasure to first introduce myself. I am Carlos González Gutiérrez. I am the Consul General of Mexico in San Diego. And today I have the honor of being your moderator because our chair, Paul Ganster, has a personal commitment that didn't allow him to be here. So I'm glad that I had the good luck of being asked by our friend Hector Venegas, by our friends from SANDAG, to help in the moderation of this meeting. Before we move on, I want to let you all know that there is simultaneous interpretation. I would like to ask our interpreter to briefly please explain how all this works and provide the information in the chat if possible. ¿Tenemos intérprete?
Yes. Should be connected. Barbara? Barbara, can you offer the instructions, please? Alejandro, I'm sorry. Yes. Alejandro, can you go ahead with the instructions, please?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect, okay. The interpreter is posting the announcement right now, so one moment, but in the meantime, let me read it. Let me inform you, this is an announcement from the interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon, the world, and select English as your language. This is very important. If you are joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone or tablet, please press the ellipsis at 3 little dots, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on mute original audio to not hear the original Spanish low in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you are in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Este es un aviso por parte del intérprete. Para poder hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación, el globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish o español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etcétera, presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, que es silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo.
Muy bien, muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much. As you know, we are on a hybrid mode. Half of us are here in presence, and I understand that there's people connected online. Therefore, let me quickly review the process and guidelines for conducting the meeting on Zoom. For COBRO members, please note that you are not automatically muted by the meeting organizer, so you will have to mute and unmute yourself. In addition, when you'd like to speak, please turn on your camera or raise your hand by opening your participants panel on the Zoom toolbar and clicking raise hand at the bottom. Once we see you, I will recognize you at that time. For members of the public who'd like to speak on an item, please use the raise hand icon in the Zoom toolbar. When you are called, you will be unmuted by SANDAG staff. If you're calling by phone, you may need to enter *6 to unmute yourself. After your comments, you will be muted by SANDAG staff. If you're calling into the meeting, please press *9 on your phone if you'd like to comment on an item. All comments, whether emailed or live, will be made a part of today's meeting record. Most importantly, if you have any question regarding the procedure and how to speak, how to make a comment, please just ask, and the staff will be more than happy to help. As I was saying, it's really an honor to substitute my friend Paul Ganster as chair of this committee. It is particularly a happy time for us because, as you know, September is our national month. So I would like to take this opportunity to invite you all to the grito ceremony on September 15th here in front of the Mexican consulate on India Street. Everybody is more than welcome. The Consul General of Mexico, yours truly, will be offering the grito in front of a crowd of 5,000 Mexicans responding with the traditional agenda. It's particularly moving. It's particularly emotional moment. It's something that, if you haven't experienced, I cordially invite you to join us in front of the Mexican consulate, September 15 for the grito ceremony. I also would like to let you know that September 15 is also the beginning of the United States National Hispanic Heritage Month. But let's start the meeting. Your agenda, as you can see, includes three very important issues. Item number one is San Diego and Imperial Counties Sustainable Freight Implementation Strategy. Item number two is Zero Emission Freight Transition at the Baja California, the Zero Emission Freight Transition at the Baja California Border Study. And item number three is a preview of the San Diego Chamber of Commerce 2023 Binational Delegation to Mexico City. In order to move on to the agenda, let's first approve the minutes. I would like to ask for a motion. I understand that everybody has the minutes.
Yes, and they receive it in the agenda packet.
So is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Yeah, I'll do the motion.
Okay, muy bien. And second, please.
I'll second.
For the record, could you please say your name?
Nathan Owens.
Nathan Owens. Okay, good. Any comments? No? Perfecto.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? You oppose? No. In favor? And abstain? No. That's unanimous. Thank you.
Great. Next item number two is public comments. Hector, please.
Okay, if I can start, and thank you very much, Consul General. It's an honor for us, for COBRO, to have the privilege of having you conducting this meeting. So thank you on behalf of SANDAG and the members. And if I can also take advantage, I want to report that the process to prepare the 2025 regional plan already started, and some of you helped us or participated in the kickoff meeting that we had earlier last month in August. So right now we are currently in the process of getting public input, and we've been holding workshops in several sub-regions of San Diego. But what I want to share is something that you have in the last item on your agenda, is that we are planning to have again a taller fronterizo, a cross-border workshop across the border in Tijuana. So SANDAG, as a part of our consultation process, we are going to Tijuana to hear also from you, from the stakeholders south of the border on your comments about the preparation of our regional plan. And I want to thank our co-host, besides the Consul General, is going to be the City of Tijuana. Ernesto, thank you very much for your help. In Plan, who is joining us on virtually, and Tijuana Innovadora. So the proposed date that we just need to confirm the location is Wednesday, October 4th. So our next meeting will be south of the border. We are planning to have transportation courtesy of the binational seat. So for those that will require transportation to go to the location of the event, we will provide transportation. Obviously, it's going to be subject to space, but you will receive in the coming days a confirmation and a save the date for this workshop. And want to stress, this is important because it's the moment when officially we receive input from our border stakeholders from south of the border on what we are doing here. But also is an opportunity for us to hear what our partners are doing south there. In Plan is offering to present the Programa Metropolitano that they are currently developing, and Tijuana Innovadora is currently doing a new process that is called, a new project that is called Reimagining Tijuana. It's a visioning process that we are going to hear of that over there. Then we do we still don't know if it's going to be an interactive, depending on the time, an interactive session or a panel of experts. But important for SANDAG is that every 4 years, we go south of the border to extend our consultation process to our neighbors. So that's my comment, Consul General. And if I can also take advantage, I want to introduce my colleague, Sam Abur, because he was a presenter in our last meeting, and he's going to give us a very quick update on a report that he made last time. So Sam, please.
Check.
Yep.
There we go. Thank you, Hector. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sam Averick. I'm a public communications officer with SANDAG. I primarily support the South Bay and border-related projects, including the Otay Mesa East Port of Entry. I came to you about 2 months ago and requested your help disseminating information as we called for volunteers to participate in a border wait time survey where travelers would track how long it takes them to cross northbound and southbound through the Otay Mesa and San Ysidro ports of entry. This survey ran from June 26th to August 11th and received more than 1,100 responses. The survey remains open until we finish our validation study. The feedback gathered from this survey will be used for Caltrans and SANDAG's new border wait time mobile app called Cali Baja Border Wait Times. Some notable achievements from the survey include receiving over 1 million advertisement impressions, 1,800 e-blast impressions, and more than 600 physical flyers distributed amongst travelers in the border area. We heavily relied on stakeholders like this group to disseminate our toolkit to their databases and could not have achieved the level of engagement without your help. I wanted to share the outcome of your efforts and thank you for participating and helping spread the survey amongst your networks and communities. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Sam. Thank you very much. Now I'm asking the members of this committee, do you have any announcement or any question regarding what you just heard or what Hector mentioned about the meeting on October the 4th?
The public comment.
Eduardo, ya pasamos a los public comments. If there is no other comment from a member, then Eduardo, por favor.
Muchas gracias, Consul. Muy buenas tardes. Good afternoon, Hector and all the COBRO board. Thank you so much for the efforts that this specific forum is promoting to enhance the cross-border reality and society. First of all, I want to follow up, Hector, on the previous opportunity you gave me to participate in the public comments before, I think it was during May, in another COBRO meeting. I want to, again, trying to ask you the opportunity to be part of the agenda of the coming events. I think that the workshop that you are talking about cross-border transportation aspects could match a lot with the proposal that Smart Border Systems is making for enhancing and actually control the border wait times. No, thank you so much, and I will be more than happy to keep discussing this huge opportunity for the binational region. Thank you, Hector. Thank you, Chair. Consul, gracias.
Muchas gracias, Eduardo. Any other question or comment? If not, then why don't we move to the first report that we want to hear about, the San Diego and Imperial Counties Sustainable Freight Implementation Strategy. I would like to ask Mariela Rodriguez from SANDAG to take it away.
Hi, good afternoon. Buenas tardes a todos. My name is Mariela Rodriguez. I'm a senior regional planner with the Goods Movement team at SANDAG in the planning department. And today I'm here to present an overview of the San Diego and Imperial County Sustainable Freight Implementation Strategy. Next slide, please. So freight is an essential part of our regional economy, and it plays a significant role in our daily life. And this was very, very clear during the pandemic when we all experienced shortages of medical devices, masks, toilet paper, among many other things. We also know that communities near and around freight facilities. Thank you. I was like looking around, couldn't find it. Thank you. Thanks. We also know that the communities that are around and near freight facilities bear a disproportionate burden when it comes to air quality and pollution. In order to address some of these issues, SANDAG, the Imperial County Transportation Commission, and Caltrans have been developing the sustainable freight strategies. And this plan intends to create a more sustainable supply chain network through regional freight projects and policies to reduce emissions and foster trade. This plan, some of the key implementations of objectives have been to develop and strengthen partnerships between public agencies and private sector, try to address environmental justice concerns from freight impacts, as well as implementing innovative technologies, identify also federal, state, and additional fundings to implement some of these projects and policies that we are proposing and analyzing here. And we also attempt to address workforce development gaps in implementing these new technologies by creating a workforce development toolkit. So here's the timeline of the project. And since the project kicked off a year ago, we conducted literature review, also analyzed best practices in freight projects around the country and around the world. And in the next couple months, we will be developing the implementation plan. We have been working thoroughly to, right now, we are in the process of finalizing the cost estimates and the schedules and funding. And we're gonna move on to the project phasing in the next month or two. And we are looking at finalizing this strategy in January 2024. Excuse me. Over the course of the project, the team has been seeking feedback from a wide array of stakeholders, from industry to community members, and we engaged in 10 stakeholders interview. We held 4 focus groups with different members of the community, from health organizations to CBOs to workforce development and labor organizations, as well as businesses and freight industry. We conducted a public survey that was open for 5 weeks, and we engaged CBOs and many other organizations to spread the word about this survey. And we received over 150 responses, and that informed our prioritization process on the different policies and programs that we are evaluating. We also presented in numerous committees, including the AB617 International Border Community, the Imperial Mexicali Binational Alliance, and the Tijuana San Diego Air Quality Task Force, just to mention a few. And we are going to be going to also borders in the next couple of weeks on September 22nd. And we also participated in several community events. So after all these efforts, what did we learn, and what were the themes that we heard from everybody that we had the chance to talk to? And some of those is that the freight is, for many people around this county and Imperial County, a very impactful and very visible issue that they deal with due to the proximity where these communities live to freight facilities. But for others, because it's not so close to them, it's really not an issue that is in the forefront. We also heard regulations about the burden that some of the regulations are imposing in the freight industry, such as the transition to zero emission regulations, which my colleague Andrea Hoff will be covering in more depth in the next presentation. And we also heard that there is a lot of enthusiasm to reducing the impacts of the freight industry, both from the freight industry and also the communities that suffer that impact. So that's positive. And we also heard that there is a lot of concerns about the economic opportunities that some of these transitions are going to impose. We met with the workforce development organizations, colleges and labor organizations, and we learned that they are actually developing already curriculum to new programs to be able to train the workforce to maintain these new zero emission technologies that are up and coming. But we also heard that there needs to be recruitment of workers to match them with the right program to be implemented. So the team, in order to be able to figure out which projects we would prioritize, the team developed a project evaluation process where we looked at existing projects from the 2021 regional plan, previous regional plans, and relevant plans from the Imperial County. We also developed new projects and strategies that we took inspiration from the best practices that we researched. With our goal in mind, the team developed a screening criteria to balance the different priorities of the sustainable freight strategies, which is shown here on the left-hand side. And the screening framework considerations include equity, where we looked at whether the project would benefit vulnerable and most vulnerable communities, which are the AB617 communities and the Kaalmada screen. And also the environment, where we consider the potential impact of the project on pollution and air quality. And economy and competitiveness, which we consider improvements in efficiency and capacity for the freight industry, and benefits for consumers and businesses in San Diego and Imperial County to improve the economic activity and employment. And on the right-hand side, you can see the type of projects that we were looking at: complete corridors, marine terminals, port of entry, rail projects, etc. So here we are at the evaluation part of the project, and some of the high priority projects are the ones with most benefits, that are the ones that we are considering for inclusion in the 2025 regional plan. And some of the highest priority strategies are highlighted here. the truck-only lanes on segments of roadways where we know that there are trucks traveling from one facility to another, like industrial facilities, warehouses, districts, rail yards, etc. Grade separations are projects to separate conflict points between streets and railroads, and this mostly benefit the surface traffic to reduce idling and safety concerns. Truck parking areas are important because the drivers need to rest in accordance to federal regulations. So it is ultimately a safety consideration, and taking existing rest areas with truck parking and adding amenities such as heating, ventilation, and air conditioning hookups so that the trucks don't need to be idling while the truckers are resting, and they can be hooked up to a plug and have their the refrigerator cargo also refrigerated without having the truck running. And port of entry projects is typically for trucks that we know spend multiple hours to cross commercial port of entries along the Baja California region, resulting in air pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, and reduced economic output. So this would support the transition to zero emissions. So in this slide, I'm highlighting just a few of the strategies that I wanted to kind of bring your attention up to. So wireless charging is one of them, would be implemented in corridors where we know there are either trucks that are traveling or port of entry. While they are in queue, they can be charging. Another strategy is the port of entry appointment system for commercial vehicles, where truck drivers can make an appointment at a certain time and they don't need to be waiting in line, and rather have maybe a dedicated lane where they can go directly to their appointment time and don't need to be waiting and polluting for hours on end. We also propose upgrade truck parking areas for zero emission, which I mentioned before. This could be applied to public owner rest areas, like those that Caltran maybe operates, as well as private truck stops, like we have unveiled a few months ago in TruckNet in Otay Mesa East, or in Otay Mesa rather. So here are some of the proposed policies that we came up with and that ranked high in our screening. And some of them is like the 12 discounts for zero emission trucks to encourage adoption of in advance to the mandates that were imposed. Low or zero emission zones, which could require that deliveries be made by certain type of vehicles that are less pollutant. That's more in like urban areas. Industrial land considerations are some things that SANDAG that's not really historically done, and local cities determine how they use their land. But we could consider policy to make recommendations about industrial warehouses, truck parking, etc., and provide some incentives. And finally, we have finally filling up the gaps in regional track networks. And this will look at existing track routes where primarily in rural areas that have geometry restrictions that cause for trucks to maybe take a detour to reach their destination and bring them up to standards, so that they don't need to be taking those like roundabout ways of going through different communities. And some of the programs that we are proposing is truck travel information system, where SANDAG would collect regional transportation data and broadcast it out like in an app for truckers, so that they know which roads maybe have accidents and they can avoid it. And the second is a proposal to make more funding available for local businesses to purchase zero emission trucks. The next one's like last mile delivery pilots, where we can again provide some regulatory test some regulations and provide some strategies to provide more friendly delivery methods. And these are the next steps. We are currently identifying the high level cost and estimating for the different strategies. I couldn't cover all of them. We have over 300 projects and programs, but this is just like a quick show of the high ones, the ones that score the highest. And so we will be in the next months identifying training programs to provide the workforce with skills needed to operate these new technologies and the infrastructure. And that concludes my presentation. This is my contact information. Tim Garrett is a regional planner that supports the study. Jose Marquez has been in the project development team since the beginning of the project. And I'm gonna hand it over to Hector or Council.
Muchísimas gracias, Mariela. For those of us who come from Mexico, it truly creates some goosebumps in terms of what you are starting to do and preparing the region to do, because we know that in this effort, we are by definition your partners, and we need to do lots of homework in Mexico in order to be prepared to do our share. I'm sure that you are aware of that, and that we will receive, Mexico will benefit from the help of Caltrans and SANDAG and the team that you represent in order for us to be prepared as well. I think that if we are not prepared, then San Diego won't be, and obviously the other way around is also true. I wonder whether there is any comment or question regarding this sustainable freight implementation strategy, which is clearly related to our second report regarding the zero emission freight. Jose, por favor.
Even though that this strategy focused primarily on Imperial and San Diego County, and since we are in a binational setting, I think and this is very related to both presentations, your presentation and Andrea's presentation. I was thinking maybe we should also call out incentives, at least to look into incentives to support the transition of the fleet, Mexican freight fleet that works at the border. As we know, there's no incentives south of the border to purchase zero emission trucks and also or deploy zero emission infrastructure like hydrogen stations and zero emission vehicles, charging stations for medium and heavy duty trucks. So maybe I think it'll be a good idea just at least to look. I know we cannot say like we are going to be doing that south of the border, but at least to like work with our partners like the ambassador just mentioned, work with Mexico to see how we can help in the transition of the fleet industry, especially at the border.
I appreciate the comment, Jose. And as you know, we have been diligently working with many agencies, many partners, not only are in the region, but in the state to make that happen. And we are 100% on board with helping out with that. So, and Andrea is going to cover a little bit more of those efforts in her presentation too.
Thank you, Mariela.
Muchas gracias. Joaquín.
Mariela, can you remind us on the tiered timelines for the new types of vehicles, the engine types that need to be implemented from now up until, what is it, 2035?
2045.
2045.
So
But-
the latest 2045 and the most immediate transition is 2035. And those are the $5 million in revenue or 50 trucks in the fleet.
Do we know what's gonna happen to thousands and thousands and thousands of trailers? Eventually, Hector, do you know, Jose? Where will they find a house, a home, or a recycling? I'm just figuring what's gonna happen to the thousands of trailers out there that are still in.
I think at this point to have an answer would be pure speculation. We can think that, like maybe some might end up in Mexico or in other states that don't have that regulation. But I think you're getting it over the head because Andrea is going to cover some of that too in her presentation.
Thank you.
Muy bien, muchísimas gracias. ¿Alguna otra pregunta? Any other comment or question? Thank you very much again, Mariela. And now
Thank
el
you.
toro le corresponde. It will be the turn of Andrea Huff to talk about zero emission freight transition at the Baja California border study. Andrea, please.
Thank you, Chair Briat and Hector and members of the COBRO committee. It's my pleasure to be here today to share the findings of a study that we conducted in conjunction with Caltrans called the Zero Emission Freight Transition at the Baja California border. Just quickly, I'll include a little bit of background on the study, talk about our border region freight flows and their importance to our region and our entire nation. We'll talk about benefits of transitioning to zero emission freight, as well as some of the challenges that industry is facing in looking at these new regulations in California in particular, some of the economic implications, and finally, opportunities to help smooth the transition to zero emission freight in the border region. This white paper really responded to some high-level dialogue that was happening both between presidents of Mexico and the United States who had met to discuss with the President of Canada or the Prime Minister of Canada to discuss creating a zero emission infrastructure that would cross borders and sort of a tri-state agreement. In addition to that, you are likely familiar with the high-level economic dialogue that happens between the two presidents of Mexico and the United States. Around 2023 or 2022, there was also a Commission of the Californias report, which involves California, our governor, Baja California and Baja California Sur, to talk also about how we're going to create a transition that traverses three jurisdictions, 3 states. This paper was an effort to respond and contribute to that dialogue. It looks at the benefits, challenges, and opportunities associated with the transition. It was based on existing studies and literature in addition to interviews with freight stakeholders in our region and some economic analysis. The paper was attached to the agenda item for your reading pleasure, so to speak. So border region freight flows. The Baja California border region connects some of the largest supply chains in the nation. Trade crossing the border in California contributes billions of dollars to the state and national economies annually. In 2019, this meant $23 billion in economic output for California and $48 billion for the rest of the United States, with a combined equivalent of nearly 300,000 jobs and almost 3 million jobs in Mexico, job equivalents. We have what can be referred to as a freight triangle between the industrial sector in Mexico, the ports of LA and Long Beach, and the Riverside, Imperial County and Riverside industry zones. And this Baja California freight triangle contains a freight network that accounts for some of the most significant trade in California. And it's really our honor to be at the forefront of goods movement, such important goods movement for the state, for Mexico, and the country. This study also included Imperial Valley. So District 11 for Caltrans includes Imperial County and County of San Diego, and that's why you see the entire freight network for both counties in addition to Baja California on the screen. This slide illustrates some of that impact that I was just discussing. The US and Mexico, since the passage of NAFTA, have grown increasingly interdependent. Since 1994 and 2022, the value of US-Mexico trade increased by 856%. Mexico has become the top overall goods trade partner to the US in 2019 and has remained in the top 2 slots ever since. These two images really start to illustrate some of that impact. You'll see on the left in purple, just a few statistics, the economic benefits of all of the goods that cross through our regional ports of entry contribute nearly 30 billion to the state of California and almost double that to the entire nation. So there's actually more goods and more economic impact happening elsewhere in addition to just that's happening in California. And you can see the numbers for the rest of the US there. On the right, this map of the United States shows the top 10 states that benefit economically from the goods that cross through our regional ports of entry. Every single state, or nearly every single state, has an economic relationship with our goods movement in our region. And here are just the top 10, Massachusetts being number 1 and Texas being number 2. And you can see that there's quite a contribution to the gross domestic product in those states, in addition to what we all know is important for our state and Mexico. The goods movement through our region is rather unique in that it's mostly transported by truck. And you can see that both in value on the left and in volume, how the San Diego County land ports of entry, as opposed to our maritime port, our airport, and Imperial County land ports of entry, but they come in second. You can see how the graph is just extremely high for the goods that move by truck. And that's a characteristic of our region and of our land port of entry. Over 1.4 million northbound trucks moved through the region's 3 commercial land POEs in 2021, with an assumed equal number of southbound trips. So we're looking at 3 million trucks crossing back and forth, really outpacing our maritime and air ports of entry. So after conducting some interviews with a technical working group that we had organized across agencies and across departments, we collaborated on an outline and an interview guide. What we discovered in talking to mostly freight stakeholders in the border region was that they're being forced, the new regulations, particularly in California, are causing folks to really have to reconsider their entire supply chains and ask questions about where they would refuel, how long it will take, what are the safety features of these new trucks. They may handle differently and require different training. How will they cover the cost of the reduced payloads that they will have to incur because of the weight of the battery? And a whole number of questions and uncertainties. The overall cost of driving was cited as a main concern among stakeholders. At the same time, there's a recognition that poor air quality is an issue near the Baja California border in particular. There's an especially designated Assembly Bill 617 is what we refer to as the legislation that created the San Diego International Border Community as a community that is historically recognized as facing overburden of impacts of air pollution. And there's some statistics here about San Ysidro, for example, and some of the burdens that the population faces anyways, but in addition to the black smog that's emitted from trucks and air pollution caused by the long border wait times. So this paper was really about balancing those two contrasting costs and benefits. This is a summary of what we found in kind of 4 areas. We found that some of the challenges being incurred as a result of the sort of this threat, if so to speak, of new air quality regulations, while needed, especially for folks living near freight facilities. There's inconsistency in California and Mexico air quality regulations, and the chair has mentioned that earlier. Not only is there inconsistency across Mexico and the United States, but there's inconsistency across Arizona and California. So there's the thought that perhaps some of our goods would just enter through Arizona if there's less restrictive air quality regulations, and what would be the economic impact of that. There was also a lot of concern about the range, the weight, and the cost of battery electric trucks, the limited fueling infrastructure and availability of truck parking, and then some of the confusion around the messaging and outreach. These are very complicated regulations, and I think although there's always an effort, and I think it's actually, the regulators are putting a lot more effort into reaching out to the border region, but in general, folks felt that there had been other campaigns that were really successful, like the COVID vaccinations, or I have this only rain in the storm drain image as an example of some public information campaigns that really were successful, and they felt that the air quality regulations could benefit from enhanced messaging and outreach. In terms of economic implications, we found that costs could be significant for medium duty and heavy duty truck operators. While the market for personal electric vehicles has expanded greatly, the market for medium duty and heavy duty electric vehicles is 2 to 5 years further behind, according to a blueprint study that our climate team is working on, meaning that both price and performance of these vehicles are not close to those of internal combustion engines that they would replace. I mentioned that there was discussion of routes considering bypassing California, and certainly higher shipping costs would lead to some decline in marginal economic activity. In particular, the regulations for high priority fleets could represent a penalty for certain trucking companies in this unclear regulatory and infrastructure context. Despite the challenges, there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of collaborative work being done in the region, and the opportunities identified in the paper include building infrastructure south, near and at the border, streamlining permitting for zero emission charging infrastructure, reducing border wait times. You'll see an image of Otay Mesa East, a conceptual image of the third border crossing, which is also a SANDAG Caltrans collaboration, which is hoping to reduce border wait times, and certainly will reduce them at that location. There's also discussion about hydrogen technology, which seemed to some truckers as being a bit more comparable than the battery electric compared to diesel. Here's again the image of the appointment system. So exploring exemptions, incentives, pilots considering perhaps overweight corridors to account for that heavier battery, and finally strengthening training and outreach, which I do think CARB has taken to heart. I've attended multiple training sessions with them down near the border. That concludes my presentation. I did want to mention that we have This white paper was presented to the California Transportation Commission in May. It's generated a lot of discussion and a lot of energy. And there's an interagency working group currently, Jose is familiar with it, working on trying to identify where the gaps are. If there's no funding for incentives in Mexico, the Mexico-based domiciled trucks, they can't purchase the zero emission truck in Mexico. So there's a lot of challenges and we're trying to figure out sort of creative solutions for that. But that's the finding of our results. I'll take any questions.
Thank you very much. Andrea, any questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Jose, por favor.
I just want to stress the importance of this white paper. And thank you, Andrea, for your presentation. It was a really good presentation. As California transitions into zero emission technologies, I mean, we are trying to clean up our fleet, the California fleet. And we have stricter and stricter regulations for our truck fleets. Mexico has very, very similar goals. However, they're not in the same timeline. We're not in the same timeline. Our timeline is more stricter. We're probably like 10 or 15 years ahead of what Mexico is trying to do. So what this white paper is trying to do is like, okay, what we're trying to identify the needs at the border, because once we started to transition to zero emission technologies for medium and heavy duty trucks, I mean, how the trucks that are Mexican domicile are going to be affected. And as you know, about all these trucks across the border mostly are from Mexican companies. So this is what this white paper is trying to do. We have interagency task force where we have CalEPA, CARB, the Energy Commission, GoBiz, Caltrans, CalSTA, SANDAG participating. So we're going to be coming up with identifying some more solutions and maybe looking at a possibility of incentives for zero emission trucks and also for infrastructure. Thank you.
Did I hear incentives?
We're trying to identify them.
Using US taxpayer money?
We'll see. Well, there's a lot of them. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Great.
NatBank is also part of that.
Yeah, oh, as well. Yeah, thank you, Mariela. NatBank, the North American Development Bank, is also part of those talks. I know that the state of Baja is also looking into this as well. Yes.
We are in the same. The same area with the same party. Here in this place, then all the displaced stuff. But in Mexico, there is no one because of the at the end of the day.
I think you need to turn on your mic, please, for them to hear. Exactly.
Okay.
Perfect.
Well, okay. Let me summarize this briefly. If all these efforts that carry out in California don't take into account the other side, then we are going to fail, we as a binational region, because we share the same binational earthship. It's the same quality of air, here and there. So if you displace your cars and you move them to Mexico, their quality is going to be bad because we share the space. And the air doesn't need a passport.
Yeah.
So the emissions, that's why we need to know how to invest in a clever way to really reach that benefit. Otherwise, we are not going to get anywhere. Thank you. Gabriela Muñoz, del Colegio de la Frontera Norte.
Any other comment or question? Rocío, por favor. I'm sorry, could you introduce Rocío for everybody, and could you introduce yourself so that everybody, the lady who just spoke?
Ya que si te puedes presentar. Gabriela Muñoz, professor of climate change, air quality, water at el Colegio de la Frontera Norte.
Correcto. Ajá. Rocío, por favor.
Rocío Baranjas, from the Colegio de la Frontera Norte, Tijuana. Well, I have a very simple question. How this zero emissions project can reduce the wait times at the border for the crossing? Because it's kind of, well, you can tell
Sure.
us.
Thank you for the question. I don't believe that zero emission vehicles could reduce wait times, but some of the strategies that we identified, which would help with the air quality in our shared air basin, include projects that will reduce border wait times. So it's like Otay Mesa East, adding capacity to the border or incentivizing folks to walk rather, or use transit rather than wait in their cars. So different ways of reducing that wait time will improve the air in addition to zero emission vehicles.
Can I add? And I'm going to go back to Mariela's presentation. So what Andrea was just presented is the white paper, like what are the implications of California regulations to the Mexican fleet? Well, to the fleet that crosses the border. But in the sustainable freight strategy, what we're trying to identify is freight projects like an appointment system. So if you just imagine if trucks, not right now, they just go to the border and they just line up. But if we had an appointment system like an appointment system that we have like at the ports of LA and Long Beach, like where they say, well, I'm going to cross the border on Tuesday at 2 p.m. They don't have to line up at the border. They don't have to be idling at the border. Maybe on other types of products that we can consider is maybe having green lanes for zero emission trucks at the border, having zero emission infrastructure for trucks on both sides of the border, for hydrogen stations on both sides of the border, or electric trucks for both sides of the border. So that's some of the things that we're trying to identify in Mariela's, in the project that Mariela is leading. Mariela, probably.
Yeah, no, you said it perfectly.
Thank you.
I think that we all share, at least those of us who come from Mexico, a common challenge on how can we help our friends from SANDAG, from Caltrans, from the local governments in San Diego County. How can we help them in quote unquote selling the special relationship that California has with Mexico? And that special relationship translates into help, collaboration, cooperation to us being able to do our share. We always speak of a special relationship between California and Mexico, but I think that there is very few times in recent history in which that need has been so clear as it is now regarding, as you were saying, the common challenge of the environment, which the border doesn't distinguish one side of the other. We share the challenges. One last question from the public, and then we move on because we need to.
Thank you, Consul. Thank you, Consul. I need to observe again that specifically this opportunity of tackling border wait times is the purpose of behind the company I represent, Smart Border Systems, looking to introduce a kind of appointment dynamic system for managing the existing capacity. As a transportation engineer, I could tell you and state that the challenges that we face in our ports of entry has a really complex reality that has to be addressed with pilot programs as Andrea already addressed. Pilot projects, actually, I'm aiming for a pilot for personal vehicles that could become the rule for their other transportation modes and agnostic of traveler class. I agree with you all what we are reflecting here and looking forward to keep our conversation and demonstration with you guys. Thank you.
Gracias, Eduardo. So thank you again, Andrea.
Thank you very much, Chair Gonzalez Gutierrez.
Very interesting report. Thank you very much. And so the final item on the agenda is the 2023 binational delegation to Mexico, talking about a special relationship between California and Mexico. The Chamber has been organizing this trip for the last 18 or 19 years, almost 20 years. And it is an example of what collaboration should mean between Mexico and a specific region in the US. So I'm very happy, very pleased to have Jimena from the Chamber of Commerce to give us a preview of what we can expect during the next San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce visit to Mexico in October. Jimena,
Yes,
please.
thank you so much, Chair. It's actually our 17th year heading back to Mexico City. And first of all, I wanted to give a huge thanks to the chair, of course, to the SANDAG team, Hector, who had to step out, for always giving us a space just to give an overview about our Mexico City delegation trips. And even bigger thanks to those who join us, whether it is in Mexico City and Sacramento or Washington, D.C., just to knock on our top legislators' doors and to advocate for regional issues. A quick introduction to who we are. I'm pretty sure most of you know who we are, but if there's any people online who have any doubts, we are a membership-based organization of more than 2,800 members from representing a variety of sectors and industries from both sides of the border. And we consider ourselves the leading political advocate for the business community, a hub of connections, and collaborations amongst businesses. And one of the main efforts that keeps us busy throughout the year are our 3 delegation trips that we lead annually, which provide our members and local leadership an opportunity to influence change at state, national, and in this case, international legislative levels. All right, so why do we head to Mexico City every year? We recognize the need to push for priorities like the ones we have up here to increase the quality of life, economic development, and leverage the proximity that we have with our partners south of the border. These are the ones that we have identified this year with our business community. They usually change at an annual basis. This year we have added Mexico's 2024 presidential elections. As you all know, Mexico is heading to their presidential race for 2024, with general elections being scheduled on June the 2nd of that year. So we will be adding some engaging conversations to the agenda with renowned journalists, experts, just to share their insight of what political and economic developments to expect through this. All right, with the help of our dear friends at the Mexican Consulate, we are in the process of securing meetings with these different government agencies to jointly address for our regional priorities and objectives. We will be covering border infrastructure, of course, and efficiencies like OTAI 2 and additional solutions to maximize the potential of our current ports of entry with both transportation and customs officials. We will also be covering topics like the ones we've discussed today, hopefully with the Ministry of Energy or any other federal energy agencies, just to cover the transition to renewable energies or any political dialogue over these topics. And of course, we will be meeting with diverse water authorities just to receive updates on projects that intend to address transboundary pollution, and also engage on conversations over the water crisis that both countries are currently facing and opportunities to collaborate at a binational level with water management, water reuse, or other topics within the water spectrum. On a more brighter note, we always add to the agenda a meeting with the Ministry of Tourism to talk about this year about recovery insights on this sector. And we would like to specifically focus a bit more on the presence of medical tourism within our region and efforts moving forward to strengthen the binational ties within this sector. And just as a side note, all of these meetings will have translation services for those non-Spanish speakers, non-Spanish speaker participants. So just something to get off anyone's plate. Up next, something that I want to cover is that we historically met with the Mexican Senate year by year. In fact, in 2017, we signed an MOU with the Senate, and they have welcomed us every year to their facilities just to continue promoting and protecting the commercial bilateral relationship. And in these meetings, we typically meet with the leaders of various commissions having to do with border affairs and trade, of course. And because of this ongoing collaboration with the senators, we've successfully lobbied for just sort of some funding efforts. Like in the past, it's been PED West, the northbound pedestrian bridge at San Isidro Port of Entry, and other regional projects. And now we're coming back just to inquire about other priorities like the ones I previously mentioned. All right, this beautiful picture of our 2022 binational delegation. We had around 97 business and community leaders joining us. These included county supervisors, mayors, around 24 companies, 2 council generals, state of Baja representatives, and 8 regional council members from both sides of the border. And we were really proud to partner with SANDAG and Caltrans for the signing of the agreement that outlines how the revenue for the toll affiliated with the Ota y Mesa East Port of Entry will be split between the 2 countries. And a really astonishing signing ceremony took place on the first day of the trip. And it was really eventful seeing so many regional leaders being in the same room with these Mexican federal authorities, just reiterating the commitment on the advancement of this project. So definitely one milestone. And of course, one of the most valuable takeaways for delegates during these trips is a networking that goes on. The agenda is strategically organized to give participants the opportunities to build and foster relationships, and for the business community specifically expand on business prospects, and overall foster collaboration between regional leaders from both sides of the border. And up here, you can see some of them who attended last year, and we are expecting a similar representation this year from all of those levels of government. We are expecting increased media coverage as well from local and national levels. And just like every year, we will be having Televisa joining us on the entirety of the trip, and have also already coordinated a press conference with regional mayors and industry representatives just to share a bit more about the delegation's priorities and the progress throughout the trip itself. Of course, this would not be possible without our sponsors. They have taken advantage of the visibility and speaking opportunities and complimentary registration for 2 or more people of their team. So if any of you know anyone who might be interested, a few of these sponsorship packages are available. All right, and a little bit more on the logistics and detail side of the trip. Registration includes meals, meetings, bus transportation, and for planning purposes, most of the delegates get there in the afternoon on Sunday. This would be October 8th, prior to a welcome reception that goes on at 7 p.m. And the entire trip concludes around 12 p.m. on Wednesday, which will be the 11th. And of course, we suggest traveling from the Tijuana airport just to take advantage of the low fares and to use our region's pride and joy, which is CBX, which they have kindly sponsored some passes for our delegates. And we will be, the Four Seasons will be our hotel venue once again, where we have secured special room rates from the 8th through the 11th. And prior to the trip, just to have a general overview and latest updates on the agenda, there will be a pre-trip orientation on October 4th. So that's it for me. Wanted to keep it brief and short. At the end of the agenda of your agenda packets in front of you, there should be a flyer with the event's website if you want to take a look at it, see further details, and even complete your registration if you haven't. But thank you so much again and hope to see some of you there.
Jimena Villaseñor, muchísimas gracias. It's really an experience to have this binational delegation. I'm happy that most likely I will be able to participate this year again. October, Mexico City, you couldn't be in a better place. And the networking and the opportunity to have so many important people who are the key decision-making process in the relationship between California and Mexico, it's unique. So I hope that you have a great response in terms of participants. And as every year, Luisana, my colleague, yours truly, we are more than happy to help in any way we can to secure those meetings that are still pending.
You've helped enough, so thank you so much.
¿Alguna pregunta, any question, comment? If not, Hector made me promise to finish before 4:30 because there's a crucial logistical deadline that we need to consider. Así que, Mariela.
So if you guys parked here in the building, remember to go up to the 8th floor, I think it is, to the reception and get your ticket validated.
Muy bien. Pues muchísimas gracias. Fernando, gracias. Gracias, Rebeca.